Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and today I've got Hoops. What's up?
What's going on, man? How you been?
I'm good. I've been tired lately, as we talked about before, but other than that, I've been good. How about you?
Honestly, I feel you. Same. It's been pretty exhausting lately for whatnot, like work. I guess lack of sleep can also be
Yeah.
included and a lot of other factors. But weekend definitely a good opportunity to catch up on that rest and have a little mental break from work for sure.
Especially since we got a long weekend this week. That definitely
Oh yeah,
helps.
definitely really helpful.
Yeah, but today we've got a pretty exciting video. I think, since I wouldn't say halfway, but like a good chunk of the way through the year, I think it'd be fitting to talk about our top 25 current NBA players. We both came up with two different lists, and we're gonna reveal them together for like the very first time. I have not seen his list, he has not seen my list, so it's gonna definitely be a surprise for everybody. Um, would you say your list is controversial? Because I feel like I have some controversial takes that you might see coming, but the people that don't really know us probably won't expect. But uh, do you think you have any controversial takes?
I think that I have a few controversial takes, but not like too many crazy ones. So definitely a few that are a little bit controversial, but I wouldn't say too out of the norm.
Okay, yeah, I feel like most of my list is fine. There's just this one player that might be controversial. But before we share
Ooh.
our
Who
list, uh,
knows? Maybe it could be the same one I have.
or maybe, or maybe everybody's on my same weight. What was the brainwave wavelength? I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe we all believe the same thing. Hopefully, but we'll see.
hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, before we go through our 25, first of all, subscribe to the podcast. Check out the podcast on streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify. Check out our social medias, all that. But yeah, before we do our top 25, let's do some quick honorable mentions. So, who are a few players that did not make it on your list?
So for honorable mentions, I kind of just listed five of the players that I thought were best that I potentially thought about adding to my list, but ultimately didn't include them because I just feel like the other players were either better or stuff of that nature. So here were the guys that I put on my honorable mentions list. Um, First one, James Harden. Then I
Okay,
put
yeah.
Bradley Beal, and then I put Zach LaVine on this list. I definitely thought about putting him top 25, but I just felt like these other players had more of a case. And then I also included Brandon Ingram on honorable mention. And this one is not really as crazy, but he's still pretty good, so I just put him on honorable mention list. Darius Garland. So just a little overview.
Interesting.
Yeah, just a little overview. The five players I put on honorable mention were James Harden, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram, and Darius Garland.
Okay,
Memo, your list.
that's interesting. I will say a couple of them were not on my radar, just like Zach Levine and Bradley Beal, just because of like how much time they missed. Um,
Yeah,
which is the big reason. I think Darius Garland, if I'm not mistaken, missed some time too. Um,
yeah.
but
I
honestly,
think
not
that
bad. Especially the James Harden one. That's kind of a underrated pick because although I love to trash on him and whenever I can, his playmaking has been very important for the Clippers and it's a big reason why they've had this huge turnaround that I honestly
Yeah,
did not see coming. So I respect
me
it.
neither. Yeah, I will say this. Definitely agree with you. Bio and Levine. I think like maybe like 4 years ago, they would have for sure been in the top
Oh yeah.
25. Um, but they just both haven't really been on the court enough recent years that it's been kind of hard for me to include them just for the lack of availability. Um, and then Ingram definitely has a case, but as mentioned, there were these other players I felt like probably just a little bit higher. And then Harden, I feel like he had a case to be on the list too, but one of the reasons why I didn't include him is I don't really like his like his his encore antics and being a locker room distraction. Granted, he has been instrumental in the Clippers turnaround, but yeah, I left him off the list for mostly those factors.
What were some important like things you looked into for your list? Like for me, availability was important. Whether or not they've improved with their stats, and I really focus on what they've done this season specifically. I would like look into like their past, like maybe playoff performances as well. But mainly, I focus on like what they've done this season. What did you look at when creating your list?
Honestly, a lot of different factors. This season definitely mattered a lot. But a lot of it also I considered like recency beyond this season. Like for example, the last 2, 3 seasons per se, because all that has been relatively recent. Um, Also including like a little bit about like stealing potential too. Like so most of these players have at least been in the season like for 5 seasons or more, I'd say. So most of them have been like veterans. So the main factors really I listed was current season and like maybe like last 3 seasons, how have they been faring along the league overall? I'd say
Uh,
mostly those factors.
Okay, so you looked into like what they've done in the past recently. That I think that's fair, and to see if like any growth has been made as well is very important as well. I believe.
For
Um,
sure.
you mentioned they're usually more veterans, and I guess I did that without knowing because I didn't even think about adding Victor Wembanyama or Chet in my honorable
Oh, me
mentions, let
neither.
alone
Too young.
my top 25. I feel like I could make a case for one of them, um, but yeah, they weren't in my top 25. But some honorable mentions that I had: Kyrie Irving, great point guard, missed some time though, so I feel like um, he he was like nearly there, but not quite. Carl Anthony Towns, a guy I'm not a huge fan of, but there's no um, denying how important he has been for this Minnesota rise recently, especially how he learned to play right next to Rudy Gobert, who could be an honorable mention solely off of his defense. Paulo Banchero, I thought of for a little bit, especially with how Orlando has have had damn uh, how they improved this season. I thought he was a big part of it. He's a great offensive player. Um, but yeah, I also thought of Tyrese Maxey because of his huge jump, but uh, I feel like he still has a lot to prove. Laurie Markkinen is a solid player that I thought of. Uh, so is Pascal Siakam, but probably the biggest snub for me is John Moran. He was on my list. Sorry, when I originally made it like a couple weeks ago, especially seeing how much he's helped the Grizzlies in such a short time span. He was actually pretty high on the list. I guess not super high, but like in the middle of the pack. But since he got injured recently, and it's gonna be out throughout the entire season. I decided to leave him off just because he's not gonna be playing anymore this season. So for my top 25 current players, I feel like I couldn't add him onto it because he's not currently playing. But otherwise, he would be on the list.
Okay, interesting take. But I could see where you're coming from, honestly.
But yeah,
And Carl Anthony Towns for sure. So I guess a slight spoiler alert. I didn't include Cat on my list either. For sure, he should be a honorable mention as well.
did
So
I
yeah, I feel that.
did I mention anybody that was on your list?
John Moran is on my list.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay, I guess we could talk a bit more
Yeah.
of that when the time comes. Anybody else?
I did include Kyrie on my list.
Ooh.
Um, Towards the end, you'll see where exactly a little bit. Um, can you repeat your list real quick? Let me see if there's anyone else I included. I don't think so, but
Yeah, I got Kyrie, Carl Anthony Towns, Paulo, Tyrese Maxey, Laurie Markkinen, Pascal Siakam, John Morant.
okay. Yeah, it was just John Morant and Kyrie that I included. Um, and then the other guys you mentioned were all good honorable mentions. And I feel like a lot of them would have been on like top 30, for example. The top 25 was just a little bit tough to include all of those guys.
Yeah, and I feel like I
So
could
yeah,
keep going with like Scotty Barnes. I didn't even mention Brandon
yeah,
Ingram, the rookies that we were talking about earlier. So we could
hmm
honestly keep going and going, but I feel like it's
definitely
time to start revealing the top 25. So we do have a
for
shared
sure.
doc that we will reveal our lists together. And let's do that right now. I'm going to put my first five over here. And then, okay.
Um,
Ooh, okay. All right, all right. Okay, do you want to go first or should I?
I can go first.
Okay.
All right. At 25, I got Kyrie Irving. At 24, I got Jalen Brunson. At 23, I got Trey Young. At 22, I got De'Aaron Fox. And at 21, I got Jamal Murray. Now I feel like a lot of these players, the order could have easily been very interchangeable. Um, I kind of created this list in a way depending or based on like how I feel they've been in like overall the last few seasons. So like for example, if we're talking about this season only, you could argue that Jalen Brunson potentially has been doing better than all of these guys. But ultimately, I just feel like playing a little bit more of like a big factor in like more than just this season, but like maybe like for example, 3 seasons overall. I feel like this was a logical sequence that I just decided to roll with. So I don't know.
Yeah, let me
I
review
guess
my list really quickly. So for 25, I have Zion Williamson, 24, Domantas Sabonis, 23, Jamal Murray, 22, Damian Lillard, and 21, Bam Adebayo. And when I was making my list, I did notice that like um I kind of have like I don't know if it's the right word, but like a preference for guards, I guess, because like I have like a lot of guards on my list, and I kind of had them all clumped together. Um, but I did have them a little higher. So most of these names that you have on your first five, I do have on my list, but higher.
mm,
Um, the only similarity we kind of have is Jamal Murray. We have it in the same
yeah,
chunk. He's not an all
yeah,
star, but he plays like an all star. He should have been an all
does.
star by now. Um, and definitely one of the biggest risers when it comes to playoff performances. Yeah, he's good at
Definitely.
during the regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, he's uh, a beast. Mm,
Definitely.
do you have all of my five in your list as well, or are there any that did not make it to your list? To your list?
Okay. Most of them were on my list, but I didn't include Zion,
So
which a
I
little bit controversial,
I feel like
maybe.
that's fair.
Um, but a little bit because of like recency, lack of availability. So yeah, this season he has been good, but one of the reasons why I didn't really include him in 25 was because of the lack of availability recent years. He definitely could have been a case though. And let's say it was like 30, he could have been on the list. And then another guy that I could have included but didn't was Sabonis.
Ooh.
Um I just feel like these other guys I listed were better, honestly. Like it's not a knock against him. So yeah, definitely a honorable mention that I didn't mention earlier, just because I feel like those other guys, I guess bigger names overall, but definitely a guy that could have been on the list that I just felt other guys were better than him.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely fair
Um,
to like knock out Zion, because he is
yeah,
having a down year. Like he's been good, but not as good as like the past. Um, I will say I feel like Sabonis is should be top 25. He averages a double double, I believe. Yeah, he leads the league in rebounds. A solid number two next to De'Aaron Fox, but maybe looking at the rest of your list, it'll make sense why you left him out. But
yeah.
yeah, I feel like
Guess we'll see.
he deserved to be there. Did Damian Lillard make your list? Is he just higher?
Oh, oh, he was higher. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's
hmm
had
Bam was a
somewhat
Bam
of
a little higher too. And then yeah, we already know Jamal made the list.
yeah,
But for me, I mean for you from my list, uh, everyone except for Kyrie, is that correct? I
yeah, and
assume.
Kyrie like basically interchangeable with Zion. Like I could have
Mm,
honestly switched them with Zion, but I think Zion has played more than Kyrie, but I could be wrong. But
he might have. I know Kyrie has been out for a lot of games
yeah, but yeah,
this
I
season.
wanted to mention
Yeah,
how Damian Lillard, even though I really like him, and like last year he would be a lot higher. I feel like this year he's
yeah.
been a little more inconsistent. He's definitely having a little more issues shooting the ball. So he's still top 25 in my opinion. He's just a little lower. And then Bam, like solid player, like on both sides of the ball, like offense, defense. He's one of the best centers in the league. The backbone
hmm
for the Heat. So I can see why you have him higher, honestly.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
is there
So
anything
I
you wanted
guess
to say about your guys before we move on to the next five, or should we just move on?
mm, not really, honestly. As you probably noticed, all of these guys were pretty much point guards. So similar to you, very guard heavy. But that's about it, I think.
All
We can
right,
move on to the next five.
well, let's do that, and then we'll keep with the guard talk because my next five is basically all guards. I have Jalen Brunson at 20, De'Aaron Fox at 19, Trey Young at 17, Donovan Mitchell at uh, damn 17, and then Tyrese at 16. Did I do that correctly? Jalen Brunson at 20,
Um,
De'Aaron Fox at
oh
19,
wait, wait, hold
Trey
on, hold
Young
on.
at
No,
18,
so
Donovan
I
Mitchell
think what
at 7. What? No, I'm counting 20
okay,
twice.
so
That's what I'm
what
doing.
what com what is confusing us is because when we enter on our table in a Google Doc, it combines our
Yeah.
lists so that we forget what number it is. But actually, it would be
Jalen
20 to 16.
20 to
Yeah,
6.
20 to
Okay.
16.
Guy, I
Jalen
promise
20.
I know math. I used to be a math major. I have my associate's degree for mathematics right there. I know how to count. Trust me. But let me try
This
this
man is
one
trying to
more
be a math
time.
teacher.
I can count. Trust. Look at this. Jalen Brunson, 20. De'Aaron Fox, 19. Trey Young, 18. Donovan Mitchell, 17. Tyrese Halliburton, 16. There we go. There we go. I did it.
All right. So for the most part, I see a lot of these players I did mention on either the previous list or even on this current list. But without further ado, let me list my players from 8 to 16. At number 20, I got Donovan Mitchell. Number 19, I got Bam Adebayo. Number 18, I got John Morant. Number 17, Paul George. And number 16, I got Anthony Davis. Um, so some of these guys definitely could be argued to be higher or lower. But overall, I just rode with it. I feel like most of these players are pretty good. There's definitely some other guys in the league that are better. Um, but definitely these guys, I think, deserving to be on the list.
Yeah, I
Um,
have issues with Anthony Davis at 16. I feel like he should be higher, honestly. Like, the 1 year he's been actually, like, on the floor, he's been killing it, I feel like. Uh, but
yeah,
I'm assuming the
argued.
reason why you have him lower is because he's been a little inconsistent. Is that right?
Yeah, honestly, like he has been really good overall, but he has been also a little bit inconsistent. That's why I feel like a little bit towards the middle of the pack for now. I put him there. But
Okay.
there's there's some controversies that could be arguable, so yeah.
I guess that's fair. I just feel like he's one of the best players on both sides of the floor. Kind of like Bam, but just like the evolved version, you know? I feel like if the Lakers defense in general was better, he should be a shoe-in for defensive player of the year. Um and obviously when he's on a hot streak, like he could go for 40 with ease, but yeah, that's why I had him a little higher, but we could go over that when we get there. But yeah, most of my guys are guards. You know, Jalen Brunson, kind of like Jamal Murray. He's not an all star, but he should be considered an all star. I'm sure he will be an all star this year, and helping carry the Knicks basically. I mean, Julius Randle is good too, but offensively, like Jalen Brunson uh, packs a huge punch. And same with De'Aaron Fox, one of the fastest guys in the league, and he could produce points with ease, especially in the fourth quarter. Trey Young, not only is he a great offensive player, but a great distributor as well, playmaker. His defense isn't the best, but I feel like none of these players are good at defense, honestly. Donovan Mitchell could score buckets like crazy. The Cavs are now doing better than they were at the beginning of the season, so that definitely helps his case. And then Tyrese Halliburton, one of my favorite players in the league right now, just based off of his efficiency. Like his offensive power is insane. He's very efficient with his weird looking shot. He could drain threes like crazy. He play makes like crazy and does it all with no turnovers. Again, not the best defender, but yeah, those are the reasons why I have a bunch of guards in this position.
Yeah. So overall I feel like placement is reasonable. A lot of these players that you listed are already on my list in either lower or similar tiers. Um, I will say that the only one that I really do have a disagreement is Tyrese Halliburton. I feel like he should be higher.
I like that,
Um,
to be honest. Like,
yeah,
I'm not
but
mad with that.
I could Yeah, but I could understand why you maybe put him where he is. I mean, like for one, he's relatively young still. Two, he did just get injured, and then
Mm-hmm.
three, maybe the other players you listed are more experienced. But yeah, that's the only really main one I have that I list Tyrese higher, but overall, I think the numbers are very understandable.
So you think Tyrese is better than Anthony Davis right now?
Oh yeah, I think so,
Oh,
honestly.
okay, okay.
Think about it. He's the number one option on his team versus AD being the number two
I know,
option.
but Anthony Davis is so much better defensively and could carry the load offensively as well. So I thought about like both things. Like, yeah, Tyrese is elite offensively. The defense is like very poor, while AD is like somewhere in the middle. But I guess it depends what you care about, right?
Yeah,
What you like to see.
depends.
I feel like Tyrese is more fun to watch as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But I think
I'm kind of
I
shocked.
think that comparison, I think that that comparison is like, kind of unfair, comparing a guard versus like a big man like that and just saying who's better. But yeah, you can see your point and my point both going either way. You know what I mean? Like who's better between the two?
Before we move on, though, is there a reason why you stuck with John Morant on your list, knowing that he's not gonna be playing this season?
Yeah, honestly, honestly, the reason why I have him on my list is the reason why you originally had him on your list. And it's the reason that the Grizzlies were significantly better when he came back. Because when they started the season, that team was the worst team in the league for like at least 2, 3 weeks. And then he comes in, won like five straight or six straight, whatever it was, right off
Yeah,
the
it was
bat.
a crazy run.
And yeah. And then they lost a few games, but they were still really competitive in most of them. And it just showed how big of how important he was to that team. Like in previous years, when John Morant went down, the Grizzlies were still able to win games really capably and have a good record without him. But after they lost some key guys like Tyus Jones and whatnot,
Dylan Brooks.
it, yeah, I guess those glue guys just after the glue guys left, they're not able to win without him as consistently. So that's why I had to include him on the list, even though he is out with injury, because you can't deny how good of a player he is when
Mm-hmm.
he is on the floor. So, yeah. And quite honestly, like, I originally had him higher on this list, but I kind of did drop him a little bit after, like, I guess he went down with injury. I feel like a healthy John Morant definitely would be arguable for top 15, maybe even top 10, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe I went like a bit far with it, but you know, I'm just gonna stand on business. I feel like I made the right move, just for this season. Obviously, next season when he's back, I'm sure he's gonna be a top 10 player. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with my decision. I do respect your decision to keep him on the list for sure. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say, or should we move on to the next five?
I think we are good to release our next five on the list.
All right, so we're gonna go to the docs, and then yeah, okay, okay,
Some similarities.
some. All right,
All right. Should I say mine first this time?
you can go
I guess
first.
alternate.
Yeah.
All right. So at number 15, yeah. Number 15, I got Jimmy Butler. Number 14, I got Damian Lillard. Number 13, Devin Booker. Number 12, Kawhi Leonard. And number 11, Tyrese Halliburton. This one involved a lot of forwards and a few guards. Most of them were small forwards and I guess point guard slash shooting guard players. For the most part, I feel like these players have really proven themselves a good amount, whether it's this season or like the last two, 3 seasons overall. Now, if this miss was made last year, I think that Kawhi would be like significantly lower for not being on the floor much. This season, he's been pretty good. So I thought that this was like a reasonable position to put him. You could argue he could be higher, but um, there's other players I just feel like are better right now. And then a lot of these other players, like for example, Jimmy Butler, he's known to be more of a playoff guy and not really a regular season guy. But you can't deny how good of a talent he is when he tries his absolute hardest. I feel like this is like a fair ground for him. Damian Lillard this season hasn't necessarily been the greatest, but I still put him here just because like his ceiling definitely he could be I mean he's shown that he could do like crazy performances
He
and
just
it's
recently
arguable
got
he could be
a game
overshadowed.
winner.
Yeah,
You saw
I
that?
heard about that. Um Actually, I haven't really been keeping up with the league as much recently because I've been busy, but
It was
I
like
heard
today, I
about
believe. Today or yesterday?
uh against the Kings, right?
Yeah,
A
against the
1 point
Kings.
win in overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Just to add on to your
Devin
point.
Booker, yeah. Devin Booker, even though neither of us are fans of him, we still can't deny that he's a good player. So I think we actually have him at the same exact spot. So that's interesting. And then Tyrese Halliburton, as I mentioned earlier, because he has been like he has improved so much these last few seasons, and before injury, he was putting up godly numbers, making crazy deep threes, and all one of the most fun young players to watch right now. I have him pretty high on the list. You could argue maybe a little bit too high, but I roll with it. Some of my fandom, I guess, kicks in a little bit. But Memo, I guess I guess I kind of did the explaining first, but
Yeah.
I
I
guess your turn to
yeah,
reveal
I'll
your list.
go over mine. I do have a lot of questions about your list, but we do have some similarities. But let me start with number 10. I got Anthony Edwards. Definitely the leader of the Minnesota Timberwolves who've been killing this year. Oh yeah, 15. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Number 15, Anthony Edwards. Um, Great player offensively. He does help out defensively as well. It's not elite, but he does his part. And a big reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves have had this like renaissance out of nowhere. Um, I was about to say 1914. Jimmy Butler. We have Jimmy Butler around the same place. Great regular season player. Um, uh, has good stats, but we all know that he doesn't play for the regular season. He plays for the playoffs. So um, even though his stats might not show that he is a top 15 player, he definitely plays like a top 15, maybe sometimes even a top 5 player in the league once it's playoffs time. So I am there. We have the same placement for number 13, Devin Booker. Um, Obviously, one of the best, probably the best shooting guard in the league. I don't like to admit that, but I feel like I have to. But not only is he a great shooting guard and can shoot the ball like crazy, I've seen him torch the Lakers so many times, and I hate to see it. He's also became a great distributor this year, playing a lot of point guard. His assists ramped up. I believe he's averaging 7 assists now. So he really picked up that load and has helped the Suns a bit, even though they haven't been doing the best. Number 12, I have Paul George, who you have a little lower, but I feel like that's fair. Just a solid superstar in the league, can do it on both ends. Very talented, has a great bag, can shoot the three, can finish at the rim, hit mid range. He's a 3 level scorer. He's really good at what he does. Obviously, that's why he's this high. And then number 11, Anthony Davis. Maybe my Lakers bias is kicking in, but honestly, I feel like he is one of the best players on both sides of the floor, if not the best, because he's elite at defense. He's elite at offense. He could be inconsistent, but this year I feel like he's been doing great for the Lakers. So that's why I have him at 11. But let me ask you a few questions. Did Anthony Edwards make your list at all?
Of course he did.
So he's in the
You'll
top
see
10?
when. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. I mean,
You think it's
I feel like he still has a lot to prove in order to be top 10, but he is like the main guy for the top 1, top 2 team in the league right
like
now.
second best right now? Yeah.
So with that logic, it makes sense. But I still feel like he has a lot to prove before uh, calling him a top 10 player. Um, but yeah. And then
I can see.
yeah, the Tyrese Halliburton placement. I feel like it's so high, but at the same time, I respect it. Like over Kawhi.
I mean, ceiling wise, I feel like he's been the roof. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like I feel like if we were going to choose who we want now, Tyrese Halliburton or Kawhi, it would be Tyrese.
I would go with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, when we're projecting. But I feel like at the moment, Kawhi is a lot better. I'm definitely on both ends of the ball, like on the court. Like I try to emphasize defense as much as I can because usually I don't care about the defense. When watching basketball, I just want the ball to go in the hoop. That's what I like to see. But
Yeah.
yeah, for a list like this, I think defense is very important. So that's why I wouldn't put him. Talking about Tyrese, I wouldn't put him this high. And Damian Lillard too. That's a little surprising as well. Having Damian Lillard this high, like you think he's better than Anthony Davis this year?
Not necessarily this year, but I kind of played in the factor of like recent years in general. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, last year like Damian Lillard had one of his best shooting years ever.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's fair.
Mhm.
But I do think this year, because of his inconsistency, I wouldn't put him this high. But it is what it is. It's your list, after all. I
Yeah.
guess the lists like this are kind of subjective.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's stats that we could look at to like objectify as much of. That's probably not the right word, but like utilize that to like add on to our points. But at the end of the day, it's subjective because there's certain things we want to we look at because we're different people, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. For your list, I don't have too many problems, honestly. Like for the most part, my players I think were like listed pretty close. Um, Now obviously the one thing that you realized was the Anthony Edwards one where like I had him a little bit higher than you. But I think that the placement where you put him is fair overall. I mean, he's a really good player. You can't argue that he isn't quite there yet. Kind of like the Tyrese situation though. I think that his ceiling is really
Oh
high.
yeah.
That's why I put him pretty high on my list. But aside from that, I don't really have too much. I think that your placement is pretty good for the most part.
So should we move on to the next five?
Yeah.
To
Let's go
the
into our 10.
top 10. All right, this is exciting. Um, I wonder who do you have?
Yeah, we shall find out.
Oh, okay. All right. I feel like we have a lot to talk about. I'll go
But we have
first.
something to talk about for sure.
I'll
Okay, go ahead.
first this time. I have Jason Tatum at number 10. Uh, Number 9, I have Kawhi Leonard. Number 8, Kevin Durant. Where's Kevin Durant on your list? Okay, number 7 on is LeBron, and then Steph is number 6 for me. Do you want to go over your list quickly first, and then we can discuss?
Yeah, I'll go over. Number 10, Anthony Edwards. Number 9, I got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 8, Jason Tatum. Number 7, LeBron James. And number 6, Joel Embiid.
Okay, this is very interesting. It's pretty different. Um, I'll say the controversial thing I was alluding to earlier was Jason Tatum at number 10. I feel like a lot of people would
Oh, okay.
consider him like right outside of top 5 if not top 5, but
Mm.
you know me, I'm not a big Jason Tatum fan. I feel like he's one of the more boring
Me
players in
neither.
the league. He's like a
Yeah.
generic NPC player in my eyes, but and
Yeah.
I feel like the system that he's in Boston carries him heavily. Damn,
Oh,
very heavy. The coaching staff and the team, like it. Damn. Okay. Like he could have off nights, and then the rest of the team would carry. Like no other
okay.
superstar has that luxury, and he's had that since a rookie year. Like he was playing with Kyrie in the playoffs rookie year. So uh yeah, I feel like he still has a lot to prove in order to be top 5. You can't just be on a good team and be a good player on that team and be a top 5 player, I think. But I'm not that mean, so I left him at 10. Um and I feel like, do you have similar thoughts? Like we don't
Oh,
have him that far apart. You have him at number
yeah.
8.
Oh, yeah. I must say this. Obviously, Jason Tatum is a really good player. I agree with you to that like the Boston system certainly helps him a lot. Like he could have like his poor shooting performances, but then like the rest of the team will do their job, and then the Celtics could win the game. Or there will be situations where like he has a really bad shooting performance, and then he makes one big shot at the end of the game, and then it's enough to win and enough to win because the rest of the team is so good. So I think that definitely plays factor to why I also listen to him a little bit lower than maybe a lot of other people would. Um, like despite the fact that Jason Tatum is a really good player, I do think that he is definitely a bit overrated. So that was one of the reasons why I listed him a little lower than a lot of other people probably would.
Yeah, he's definitely overrated in my eyes. So I'm glad you
I agree.
agree.
Yeah.
Um,
And it goes beyond the fact that he's just a Celtic. Like
oh
I
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah,
think that Allen, he is very overrated, like in general. Yeah.
for sure. I want to ask you some questions, but I don't want to spoil anything either.
Yeah.
Since the next is the top 5.
Yeah.
Um, should we reveal the top 5 and just talk about actually
Mm,
we have LeBron in common. We could talk about LeBron. Actually at the
okay.
same placement at number 7.
Same exact placement. Yeah.
So why do you have him at number 7?
Yeah. So the reason why I have LeBron at number 7, first off, obviously at age 39 now, he is still such a great elite player that you can hardly even tell how old he is. He pretty much hasn't declined at all. Like obviously sometimes he's had like a few more down performances, but overall he really hasn't shown any signs of decline. And based on how he has been playing, You could argue he could continue to play like as long as he wants, probably like 5 years. Oh, maybe if he wants to, he could even play longer than that. But I think that because LeBron, he's still really good. For sure, he should be in the top 10. He could be higher, but I just feel like these other guys currently in the league are younger and they're also like having more upside. So that's why I kind of put him at where he is right now. Could be higher, but I think 7 is fair, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Especially since he is the oldest player in the league, he shouldn't be number 7. Realistically, most players are like not even the top 300 at his age, let alone
Yeah.
top 10. Top 7 is fair for LeBron. He's still killing it like all around. Um, whether it's the points, he's averaging like 7 assists, 7 rebounds. He's still doing his thing after like 20 years in the league or something like that. So definitely deserves the spot. And I feel like I could, especially after how Curry's been playing recently, I could bump him up to number 6 because Curry has had some stinkers recently. The Warriors in general is a mess that I would love to talk about. I would love to talk about, but probably not the time, the right time at the moment. But yeah, he's still killing it, and I still have a lot of questions about your list. But I feel like they could only be answered once the next 5 is revealed. So, uh, should we reveal our top 5 right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I oof, there's a lot I wanna talk about. Okay. All right. Some surprising names. Whose turn is it? Do I share or do you? Is it your
Um,
turn?
let's see. I think sure, it's my turn. All right. Number 5, I got Kevin Durant. Number 4, I got Steph Curry. Number 3, Luca. Number 2, Giannis. And number 1, Nikola Jokic.
Okay. Our top 2 is very similar. I'll go right now. Number 5, I have Shea. Number 4, Luca. Number 3, Joel. Number 2 is Giannis. Number 1, Nikola Jokic. So maybe we should start with what we have in common, which is the top 2 players. Um, I feel like Jokic is like the safe answer, but the man is insane. He's a center that basically averages a triple double. He's doing Wilt numbers in the modern day NBA. There's no better offensive big man in the league, in my opinion, especially when it comes to playmaking. He might be the best at it ever, uh, based off of his position. And even on like nights where he doesn't shoot the ball, he still has a huge impact. I know there was a game the other day. He just shot like 3 shots, but still had like 15 points, 10 assists. I mean, not points, 15 boards, I meant to say. 15 rebounds, 10 assists, something like that. And helped the Nuggets win the game, even though he had like 4 points. Like, he's still very impactful, even without scoring the ball. So, I think he is the safe pick, but definitely deserves to be number 1. And then Giannis, number 2. Uh, I feel like you could argue Joel could be number 2, but Giannis has proved more to me that he is that guy on both ends of the floor. I guess I spoke too soon when I said Anthony Davis is the best player on both ends of the floor. That's not true. It's Giannis. Yeah, Giannis is great offensively, even though he doesn't have a bag. He's Mr. Run and Dunk Man. He's good at running and dunking. So like if no one's gonna stop him, why would he change his game? So, um,
Right.
yeah,
James
offensively,
Harden, when he said that, he
yeah,
was just salty.
he definitely is. But yeah, not only is he great with scoring the ball, but defensively he's known as one of the best in the league. So, what are some reasons why you have Jokic at 1 and Giannis at 2?
Yeah. So definitely the two very interchangeable. But ultimately, the reason why I put Jokic at number one is because I feel like his game is more complete. To start, he is a better shooter than Giannis. I mean, one of Giannis's few knocks is that he's not a very consistent shooter. Um, Granted, I don't think that really is that big of a deal because he's so good and he can change the game in other ways in shape and form that we've seen. But I do think that because of the fact that Jokic is like a walking triple double as a center and can pretty much do it all, including like shoot the ball pretty efficiently, that's why I put him at number one. And then Giannis, pretty much as mentioned, like a run and dunk man. That's because he's so good and he has the abilities. Like for a comment like James Harden said about like he wishes that he was Giannis's height to be able to only run and dunk. Like, yeah. Who first off, who wouldn't want to be like that? And two, like if you had the abilities, why wouldn't you use it? As you mentioned earlier, if anything, it just shows like how dominant he is. So it's not a knock. It's showing the sign of greatness. So those are the main reasons why I put Jokic in one and Giannis two. So they could be interchangeable. And now both guys have their ring, so that's also good there too.
They're
So yeah,
both 2-time MVPs. That helps.
uh, their resumes have been relatively similar.
Yeah.
Giannis joined the league only 1 year before Jokic. Both of them were not anticipated to be very special coming into the draft. Obviously, like Giannis still was a first round pick, but he wasn't picked until 13. Meanwhile, Jokic, he slipped all the way down to the second round. And that one meme about when his pick was made, it was a Taco Bell commercial. Yeah. Both of these guys have been proving all of the draft prospects wrong and so wrong, and you love to see it. So, like, I don't think anyone would have predicted these guys to be like top two, let alone top five or top 10, maybe even not top 25.
Yeah.
Probably not even top 100. They probably didn't expect, but proving all guys wrong. It's a really cool story. I love to see.
One of my favorite things to do when family's over and they know that I'm very into basketball is when they ask me who's the best player in the NBA, I always like to tell them it's this white Serbian chubby guy that plays center for the Denver Nuggets. And they're like, they're so confused because they don't watch the NBA. Most of the family members that would ask are from Guatemala, so they don't. Basketball is not big over there. But when they find out that the best player in the world right now is this tall, chubby, white Serbian, they're like shocked. They don't even know that Colorado exists, let alone Serbia exists. So I always love telling them that Nikola Jokic is might be chubby, but he is one of the best at it. But
Yep,
yeah, enough
definitely.
love for Jokic and Giannis. Let's get into the rest because something that did bother me from your list a little bit was
I
Embiid.
already know what you're gonna say.
Embiid,
Yep, I
yeah,
knew.
okay, because you have him at number 6. I have it at number 3. The hater in me would put him lower, but I feel like he's been playing better than his MVP season from last year, which might be a Mickey Mouse MVP in my opinion, but still, like was still great last year. He's been an MVP caliber player for years now, and I think he's elevated his status even more this year. So number 3, I feel like is fair. Why don't you have him in the top 5?
Yeah. So I will say this. Um, there's no denying how good of a player he is. Honestly, I considered putting him number 4. Um, one of the factors I did play in like putting him slightly lower is the fact that in the playoffs he kind of did like disappear a little bit, honestly. And granted, like it doesn't really have much to do with like the overall talent capabilities in like this season, but I think that like disappearing in the playoffs is definitely not a trait for any of like the superstar players. Like for example, like Paul George does that, or like other guys that I'm James Harden when he does that, like stuff like that. Like I think that if we're talking solely based on like player abilities, for sure I would have put Embiid at number 4 behind Luka. Honestly, I think, but I just feel like these other guys, they're it's like their games one are like a little bit more flashy than Embiid's. But two, like overall, when they are in like bigger situations, they tend to show up a bit more. So that was one of the reasons why I controversially listed him a little bit lower than probably he should be. But I just rode with it, honestly.
Yeah, you made some fair points. I mean, I watched the TD3 podcast a lot. It's a pretty good basketball podcast. I use them for inspiration a bit, but they like to call Embiid Big Harden because of how he basically chokes in the playoffs every year, just like Harden. So they call him Big Harden, and so I feel like it's fair to lower him a bit. I even thought of putting Luca over Joel, but again, Embiid has been crazy. Um, like his stats are insane. I think he leads the league in uh, points per game at the moment, and obviously, not only is he great offensively, but like an underrated talent of his is his defense. He is one of the best defenders in the league. So that's why I have him uh, ahead of Luca. But Luca is like definitely one of my favorite players in the league, even though he is pretty whiny and stuff. Um, the way he comes through during clutch moments when his team needs him the most is incredible, and his stats are always insane because he's like the only guy in Dallas. Like, yeah, Kyrie is there, but he's not like 2016 Kyrie, you know.
Yeah.
So Luca does have a lot to carry on his shoulders, and he comes through with some insane stat lines that like it's hard to imagine that a player like him could pull off. Uh, but yeah, another thing that did bother me a little bit is your placement of Durant. I'm surprised
Yeah.
you put him in the top 5. Why is that?
Yeah. The reason why I put him there is because like that man is still such a crazy good shooter, man, and a crazy good scorer. Like when I hate the Suns, bro. We all know that. But like there were several situations where he literally carried that team on his back. Like for example, the in-season tournament game against the Lakers, Devin Booker really didn't do much that game. He made some shots, but he didn't do much. But KD was carrying that team the entire game. When it looked like the Suns were out of it, it would just be KD making three after three after three. And then ultimately he did airball that last one, which is good because as Lakers it helped us win. But when I watched that game, that was one of those I was like, man, this guy is like still so good. Those injuries did not slow him down one bit. And that's kind of crazy, especially knowing like because when they give AD the street clothes nickname, it really doesn't make sense when you find out that there's those other players that have missed more games than him in the last like 5 years or whatever it was. Like like for example, AD has played in more games in the last 5 years than Paul George, Kawhi, and KD, and I believe KD missed the most games out of those. But even despite him missing all those games, he still is so good and hasn't really like lost a step. Like, of course, he's still not quite like 2016, 2017 Kevin Durant, but I feel like kind of like the LeBron situation, it's hardly like as if he's been affected by like aging. So I put him. That's one of the reasons why I put him high. Honestly, I kind of had like a little bit of a struggle the placement between Steph and Durant. But ultimately, I just feel like Steph is still better because he, I guess to generally put it, he has been pulling through a little bit more like overall in the last few years. Granted, he hasn't really quite been the same recently, like the last few weeks. Overall, like Steph has been the only bright spot for the Warriors this season, and um, obviously we know his past. He was like probably the best point guard in the league as low as maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, partially due to like his injuries recent seasons. Matter of fact, like the year when the Warriors won the championship in 21, 22, he could have been argued to be the best point guard in the league that season. But yeah. Overall, I think these guys could have definitely been listed lower. But I just felt like because they're still so good, I just put them in top five.
Yeah, again, you made some pretty good points. Like Durant is a walking bucket. Like similar to
Yeah.
LeBron, like Father Time has not took him down uh whatsoever. Like obviously he's not as old as LeBron, but still he's aging
Yeah.
up there, and he's still
Hmm.
killing it. It's like it's crazy how LeBron and Durant have been top 10 for like 10 years now, or
Yeah.
more than
It
that,
is crazy.
a lot more than that
Yeah.
probably. Um, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to see how successful Durant has been. I did have him lower though because he does get injured a bit, so you don't even know if he will
Yeah.
be playing in the playoffs. Like that's how injury prone he is. But when he's on the
Mhm.
court, it's automatic. He just drains it from anywhere. It's like little pull up that he does. It's unguardable somehow. So that's why I
Yeah.
have him a little
It's crazy.
lower. And then I feel like the last player that we have not
Yeah.
covered is probably Shea. I have him a lot higher than you. Um,
Yeah.
do you want to
And
tackle that for?
I was gonna. What's up?
You could go first. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say like as far as Shea goes, definitely he has improved a lot the last few seasons, and I think it's arguable. Like for sure he should be in the top 10. Of course, we both have him in the top 10. Um Me personally, I feel like top 5 is a little bit premature for now, but I could understand it just because like he has shown so much potential of like growth recently and putting up crazy numbers. Like if you even asked last season, like or the year before, who would you rather take between Shea or Ja Morant? Probably a lot of people would have said Ja Morant. But
Yeah.
now, um, due to like, well, partially due to the lack of availability for Ja Morant, but also how much better Shea has gotten, I think a lot of people would say they'd rather take Shea now.
Yeah.
So, like, it just shows like a lot of how much improvement Shea has made, and I guess also Ja's lack of being able to stay out of trouble and now getting injured. But overall, I think that it was just a little bit hard for me to put Shea in the top 5 right now, but I could definitely argue that he has a case and he's looking like he could very possibly be a top 5 going forward.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like I'm starting to feel like a little bit of a hypocrite because I do have him so high, even though he hasn't done a lot to like prove that he's that guy. Like I've talked about how Tyrese Halliburton and Anthony Edwards should be lower because they haven't done much to prove they should be higher. Um, but I think Shea is really talented. The OKC is one of the best teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
They could possibly make big waves in the playoffs. So I guess I am projecting a bit, but I had to put him over Steph because every time they played this season, Shea just cooks Curry every single time, like as if he's like an Indian chef. He always cooks Curry. That's and the way he just like brags about it on Instagram too is he's got that dog in him. So I had to put him over Curry in my opinion, but um, yeah, definitely does still have a lot to prove. So I understand your point.
Yeah. But honestly, like I didn't really take too much account into their head-to-heads this season because you
Yeah,
do make a fair like Shea did play significantly better than Steph in those games.
and I feel
And
like that's not a big reason why he should be higher, but for me, like I kind of like to see it, so that's why he had
yeah,
the
I
edge.
like to see it because like obviously like both of us we still like Steph a lot,
Uh huh.
but
It's the
don't like the
Warriors though.
Warriors. Yeah. So it's definitely cool to see big picture Thunder destroying the Warriors or just the Warriors losing in general is
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, definitely. I think it's a fair point now that explained the head to head, like, not a knock towards Curry, but I think right now, honestly, this season at least, Shea has been better. So, definitely should have a good case there.
All right. Is there anything you want to discuss before we kind of summarize our list?
Um, there's not really too much I can think of, honestly,
No.
unless there's something you can think of.
No. I think we covered everything. Do you want to go over your top 25 really quickly?
Yeah, sounds good. In summary, here is my top 25. At number 25, I got Kyrie Irving. At number 24, I got Jalen Brunson. At number 23, I got Trey Young. At number 22, I got De'Aaron Fox. At number 21, I got Jamal Murray. At number 20, I got Donovan Mitchell. At number 19, I got Bam Adebayo. Number 18, I got John Morant. At number 17, I got Paul George. At number 16, I got Anthony Davis. At number 15, I got Jimmy Butler. At number 14, I got Damian Lillard. At number 13, I got Devin Booker. At number 12, I got Kawhi Leonard. At number 11, I got Tyrese Halliburton. At number 10, I got Anthony Edwards. At number 9, I got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. At number 8, I got Jason Tatum. At number 7, I got LeBron James. At number 6, I got Joel Embiid. At number 5, I got Kevin Durant. At number 4, I got Steph Curry. At number 3, I got Luka Doncic. At number 2, I got Giannis Antetokounmpo. And at number 1, I got Nikola Jokic. And that was my top 25 current players in the NBA.
Solid list. All right. My top 25. 25, Zion Williamson. 24, Domantas Sabonis. 23, Jamal Murray. 22, Damian Lillard. 21, Bam. 20, Jalen Brunson. 19, De'Aaron Fox. 18, Trey Young. 17, Donovan Mitchell. 16, Tyrese Halliburton. 15, Edwards. 14, Jimmy Butler. 13, Devin Booker. 12, Paul George. 11, Anthony Davis. And then in the top 10, we got Jason Tatum at 10, Kawhi Leonard at 9, Kevin Durant at 8, LeBron at 7, Steph at 6, Shea is number 5, Luka number 4, Joel number 3, Giannis number 2, and the number 1 best player in the league in both of our opinions is Nikola Jokic. So that's it. That's our list for our top 25 players in the league. To be honest, this was probably one of my favorite episodes to record. I think we had a pretty fun conversation and had interesting lists. I like how, even though we're both similar in many ways, we do have different opinions, at least in regards to our top 25 list. So it's cool to see how different they are, even though we have a lot in common usually.
Definitely. Yeah. A lot of these lists are certainly very subjective, and that's what brings the fun into it. It showed how there's a lot of different factors that can play into ratings like these, like how great of a player. It's like all of these players are really great, and there's also, and because like out of only 25 of 300 or however many players there are totally in the league, um, it's going to be tough. You're gonna leave out some guys that deserve to possibly be on the list. So thinking of ways to incorporate like several factors, like their stats, their accolades, or its ceiling and whatnot, definitely plays a factor in bringing a lot of interesting placements. So yeah, this is a fun video. Going over similarities, differences, and hot takes, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this more fun episode. I think pretty soon we will go back to recording the weekly rundowns that we started off with earlier this season. But as I mentioned in past episodes, we kind of wanted to let loose a little bit, especially during the holiday season, uh, just because it's kind of hard to keep track with the NBA when we're busy with family and the holidays, of course. But now that that's all over, we could cover the NBA like we have been doing earlier this season, and it should be good fun, especially since All Star season is around the corner. Then we're gonna go to the final leg of the NBA season where teams are fighting for playoff spots. A lot of fun conversations to have very soon. So I'm excited for what for the future of the NBA and this podcast, and I hope you all are as well. Any thoughts before we end it?
Yeah. Overall, I want to just say, definitely a lot to look forward to for both the NBA season as well as our podcast. Um, it's gonna be, we're gonna try our best to go back to our regular routine soon while also combining some fun videos like this here and there as well. Um, should be fun, so make sure you guys stay tuned. If you guys like our content, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on our social platforms. You can also catch our podcast on Spotify and Apple, and then as well as our TikTok channel. We post a lot of cool shorts. So I mean, we haven't been posting as much right as we'd like right now, but we're gonna try to post a little bit more. Definitely keep an eye there. And the future of the channel, we're gonna have a lot of fun content. Um, any other words, Memo?
No, I feel like you covered it all. Uh, Especially with the TikTok. Uh, my bad. I've been lacking on TikTok a little bit. I don't know why. I'm so opinionated, and I always want to share my opinions, but I never do it on TikTok. I rarely do it, but I'll try to do that more. And then we did have that fun um, mini game TikTok episode recently, so I'll slowly chop up clips from there and put it on TikTok. So there's more content that we can enjoy from multiple platforms. But yeah, you did a good job covering everything. Again, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check out and follow us on those platforms. Rate us 5 stars. We're trying to grow this thing, so please help us out. But I think we're done here. So thank you all for checking out this podcast. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you all later. Bye bye.
Deuces.